Fourscore and 7 years ago, our father brought blah blah blah, yada yada yada, chatter chatter chatter. Hello there, CriterioNate here, number 321. John Ford's Young Mr. Lincoln, getting into the spirit of things as you do. Let's see what else. So, 1939, 100 minutes, black and white, blah 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 blah. So, what we say? This is our first. Yeah, I think this is our first one in English. We've had in English in a while. Pretty neat. Yeah, so it's a fantastic movie. Stars the great Henry Fonda as Mr. Abraham Lincoln, our 16th, 18th, one of the presidents, either 16th or 18th. He's up there in the teens, you know. So there's not much to say. I won't spoil the whole thing, but I'll tell you that this is just a sort of a semi-biopic of young Lincoln when he was a lawyer before he, had any ambitions to become president. He, came to town and he did judged pie eating contests and competed in rail splitting. And one night he finds out that these two boys are held responsible for the murder of a man, and only one of them is responsible. But because the mother won't tell who, because I think she saw, they are both arrested, and Mr. Lincoln is hired or is selected to be their lawyer. And it just so happens that the mother of the boys is also, I think, related to Mary. Their daughter is Mary Ford, who eventually became his wife. So there's a little bit about that. Actually, he becomes a lawyer after finding this law book in this family's belongings or something that they're getting rid of or something. So yeah, it's a really fantastic. Fonda knocks it out of the park. He's very, very funny, very, very clever guy. The whole courtroom scene had me laughing. Just his presence, his just this humor, and just the way he the way he sits and just his delivery is just spot on. It's hard to describe what Fonda does to Lincoln. And Ford I have not seen. Haven't seen any Ford. This is our first of 3. We've got 2 more, Stagecoach and My Darling Clementine in the Criterion. I think Stagecoach is in the 500s, and My Darling Clementine's in the 700s. So we'll get to those in future years. But this one, again, I think it seems like from the supplements, Ford seemed to do a lot of Western-themed movies, and now that this was but he had been making them since the silent era, and a lot of his early movies are lost. This was 1939, and he got a nom, and I think so this was a huge piece of cinema. By this point the Academy Awards and all that good stuff were intact, and yeah. So anyway, this is a fantastic movie. I won't tell you who murdered who, but let's just say it's a happy ending, obviously. And so anyway, I don't have much else to say about it. This is a great little picturesque idea of Lincoln. Again, Fonda really, brought himself into the role. There's really not much else to say. It's a great movie. I'd recommend picking it up. I mean, just for a quick watch, just for at least watch it, at least once. I don't know if I'd recommend buying it. If you really loved Fonda's performance, which I did. But at the same time, I don't know if it's something that's really going to grab me again and again and again. Now, that being said, the supplements, which I'll get to in a minute, are actually, it's worth it for the supplements too. So we'll get to those in a minute. But because of that, I think I might pick this one up. Yeah, so that's that. And leave it at that. So, Young Mr. Lincoln. I'm going to give it an A. Fantastic movie. Fonda knocked it out of the park. Ford knocked it out of the park. Nothing else to say. Good stuff. A. So so I don't know if this was actually released on Blu-ray. Probably, I don't think it was. I'm gonna check Criterion's site. By the way, Barnes & Noble. Get to Barnes & Noble. So this may be my first Barnes & Noble pick. As you guys know, Barnes & Noble's having their 50% off sale for November. So get to the sale. Get to picking up stuff. You know, I no doubt will. Anyway, yeah. So this is not on. So this isn't on Blu-ray. So we'll pick up the DVD, and that'll be fun. That'll be fine. And yeah, so anyway, so this may be my first pick, along with, I don't know, whatever's next. The next Criterion I have on my list to buy is a Touche Pile Grease Beat, and I remember liking it a lot, but because it's out of print, and the cheapest copy's like in the 50s, like 50-something dollars, I don't know if it's, I kind of want to watch it again to, you know, to make sure that it is something I'm going to want to watch over and over and over again in my lifetime, you know. So I may have to watch that one again before I pick it up. After that, I think next couple I want to get are Seven Samurai, which I know ain't no way they're ever going to lose the rights to Seven Samurai. Same thing of the Andre Vita set, 3 war films, A Generation Canal and Ashes and Diamonds. So those will probably be my next pickups, and that's that. So anyway, we'll figure out. I'll clue you guys in now that we're into a show. We're into the season. I'll clue you guys in as to what I pick up for the sale, because I definitely will. So, anyway, back to Young Mr. Lincoln. So disc 1 is just the movie. Disc 2 has all the supplements on it. There's a episode of Omnibus 25. It was a BBC production showcasing John Ford's career, with interviews with him, showing clips from his other movies. A lot of his silent films, which, you know, was like a lot of westerns he did. And there's one movie where he shoots a guy picking a baby up off the ground with all these horses stomping around it, and like, whoa, that's a trip. And then there's an episode of Parkinson, I think, with him, Alan Parkinson, interviewing Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda's hilarious in that, and that's what I feel like I want to pick it up just for Henry Fonda's interview. And there's also 2 archive interviews, audio interviews with John Ford and Henry Fonda, as both conducted by Dan Ford, who was John Ford's grandson. And at the same time, there is a bit of repetition. If you want to hear Henry Fonda talk about how he compares playing Lincoln to how he didn't want to play Lincoln at first because he compared it to playing God, you have 3 separate occasions on this set to hear that. Once in the omnibus, once in the talk show, and once in the Dan Ford interview. So it's like, geez, it's like the only thing you talk about. So a little repetition there on Criterion's part, but you do get to hear Henry Fonda say the F word and all that stuff, and say, this is only for you, and then Criterion finds it and releases it, you know, and Henry Fonda been like, you know, what the hell? Actually, probably would have been like, what the fuck? So anyway, and then the last thing on here is the Academy Award Theater. Academy Award Theater is a TV show, or no, it wasn't a TV show, it was a radio show. It was an adaptation. They did half-hour adaptations of movies. And at first, and it's weird though too, because just earlier today I was at work and I had this weird like premonition of a show, or like wanting to do a show, like a half hour, like an anthology show, like adapting like blockbuster movies to TV, you know, and like fitting them all into a half hour. And so it's weird that like suddenly I'm listening to a radio dramatization of a movie, you know, shoved into a half hour. I mean, the hours, you know, they shoved 100 minutes into 30, you know. So it's interesting, just like that. I was just thinking about that earlier, and suddenly I'm hearing the radio version of what I was thinking. So anyway, because, you know, there's a lot of, you know, movie adaptations where they do an hour. We've heard them, such as, you know, I can't remember any off the top of my head. I think The Lady Eve was one, which also starred Henry Fonda. So yeah, that's one that I know there are a lot of again movie radio show adaptations of movies with ever an hour, but I don't think I've ever heard any that were a half hour. So it's neat to hear that. That being said, it's not the greatest. Henry Fonda comes back and plays his role again, but because of time limits, they had to cut out obviously, and because a lot of it, some of it's visual. Like they had to cut out all the the pie eating and all that. They just focused narrowly on the courtroom scenes, of course, the murder. So the movie, the radio show starts off with the with the murder, and then just continues on from there and blah blah blah. So anyway, again, and Henry Fonda, there's something lost when a movie actor has to do radio. I think the delivery just isn't the same. And that just kind of soured the thing. I mean, it was still interesting to hear, but it definitely did not, a lot of the humor was taken out of the thing. And of course the big final scene that Ford keeps talking about in the interviews of Lincoln walking up the hill toward his quote unquote destiny is kind of is completely lost in just listening to a bunch of sound effects of some guy walking, so. And the show, I guess Academy Award didn't last longer than a season. It ran from like March of 1948 to December of 1948, I think that's what the thing said. So yeah, so anyway, but it is downloadable as an MP3 file, so I took it out. I took it and was doing some yard work while I was listening to that, and yeah, so it was neat to put it on my MP3 player and check that out. So anyway, that being said, that's all I have to say about this. Young Mr. Lincoln, I will probably get this one because I did like it, thought it was cool, and yeah, that's all there is to say about this one. Check it out. So, that's it for today. Tomorrow, Bergman, Virgin Spring. And then, I'm still waiting on the complete Mr. Arcade. Doesn't come tomorrow. We're going to have to pass on it and move on to The Children Are Watching Us. And then hopefully I will pick up that one. There's also a chance I may be going into work on Thursday. If it's their Thursday, I will pick it up and we will do it. If not, we will wait until Sunday to do it. More than likely, it's going to be the latter. I'm sorry. And we'll do The Children Are Watching Us on Thursday, and then Sunday we'll get to the complete Mr. Arcade. And then what's after that? Mr. Arcade, The Children Are Watching Us. La Bitumen, it's on my desk. I forgot to bring it home. And still waiting on Kind Hearts and Cornets. Hopefully that'll come soon. And then the Louis Malle, and then Metropolitan. I'm still waiting on that. And then the Louis Malle, I think all of them is shipped except for La Comme Lucien. And that's it. That is all there is today. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Go buy Criterion, and don't murder people. And what else? And, I don't know, run for president, I guess. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow for the Virgin Spring. And until then, goodbye.